The legendary Jerry West passed away today at the age of 86. He was a one time NBA champion. He won his only championship in 1972, one time NBA Finals MVP in 1969, which is interesting because I think he was the only Finals MVP in NBA history to be on the losing team. There hasn't been anybody else besides him, from what I recall. He also won an NBA All-Star Game MVP once in his career. He was a 10-time All-NBA first team, two-time All-NBA second team, four-time NBA All-Defensive first team. Definitely a legend. And I think he went to 14 NBA All-Star games. So definitely a legendary player for sure. I would say what I found interesting about him is when you look at his early childhood, according to Jerry West, he grew up with an abusive father who was awful. I think he wasn't close to either his mom or his father. I remember hearing interviews of this, that his parents were abusive. He had low self-esteem, that he would just keep to himself for long periods of time, just going outside. I think he would go fishing alone. Just I heard his story. It was interesting. He even admitted that as an adult he had no social skills, that he had to learn how to talk to people, which I find interesting because he would eventually become a GM, which is a job that you have to actually have social skills to succeed at. That's what makes it interesting, that he was able to overcome his social disability over time and be a functioning adult in that regard. I think that's very inspirational. For me, I remember him more as a general manager than the actual player, to be honest, because he was way before my time. I grew up during the 90s. My earliest image of Jerry West actually was as a teenager way back in 1996 when he was at the press conference when the Lakers signed Shaq, and I saw him over there. He was ecstatic. Just that's what I remember the most about him. And even before then, when they were interviewing him several times about the probabilities of getting Shaq, he was stressed out about it, but he was optimistic they had a chance. And he was trying to skate around from being accused of tampering, because I didn't think he was allowed to talk about it prior to free agency. So it was definitely the earliest memories I have of Jerry West as a person really was the GM. I thought what was also interesting about Jerry West is that he's admitted that he suffered from depression throughout his whole entire life, and that he was always battling it. Just it never mattered how successful he was always battling depression. So that shows you that despite having all these illnesses, he was still able to succeed and live a great life. Granted, the depression is an illness, so I'm sure that was always on his mind. But he was really a great GM if you think about it. Just he put together, I would say, all the Lakers championships after 1980. So think about how many Lakers, just about all of them. A few of them he didn't put together, but think about it. 5 from the 80s was his creation, and then the first Laker three-peat with Shaq and Kobe, that was his. That's 8 titles right there. And you can even say indirectly he put together the Kobe Gasol team, because he was a consultant for the Grizzlies, I believe, and advised him to do that Gasol trade. So he definitely helped the Lakers out in that department. So you could argue not only did he contribute directly to 8 titles, but he indirectly contributed 2 more titles. So that would put it as 10 Laker titles since the 1980s. He's had contributions towards. The only one is the recent one in 2020. Laker fans definitely should thank this man. He was huge for them. Just without him, they don't have the type of success that they did have. And it's apparent that ever since he's left, they haven't had really much success, if we're being honest. Just they've been a clown show. That to me is one of West's great legacies, is that he was an amazing GM. The other thing I forgot to mention that I really remember about West was his feud with Phil Jackson, which I found very interesting, that he despised Phil despite hiring. He just did it to help the Lakers, but Phil hated him. There's one story after a loss, I think during a regular season, West walked into the locker room, and then Phil got angry and told him to get the fuck out of here, literally, and cursed him out. And West left the locker room. And it was after that, West, I think, decided that he didn't want to be with the Lakers long term. So after they won that title. I think it was in 2000 or 2001. He just left and he walked away from being the GM of the Lakers, and basically the Lakers picked Phil over him. Obviously, Jeanie was sleeping with Phil, so he was never going to win that feud long term. But that was an interesting end to his Lakers legacy that Phil and Jeanie Buss really ended it. But I would say, reflecting on West, he was a great player, one of the 75 greatest, and he was a great GM. He lived a quality life. 86 years is pretty long, so you could definitely say he lived a full life, and that's pretty much all I have to say about him.